You know that feeling when you're standing in front of the mirror, moving your hair around, trying different angles, and nothing quite works? You've tried the layers, you've tried pinning it back, you've added product, you've subtracted product. And still, something about the whole picture just feels off. Heavy. Like your hair's pulling everything in the wrong direction. That was me. For longer than I want to admit, I thought more hair meant more lift. I was wrong. And once I finally saw the difference a well-chosen shortcut could make. The way it opens the face, pulls the eye up, brings out the bone structure you've had all along. I could not believe I'd waited so long. Here's the truth most people won't say plainly. After 60, some haircuts work against you. Quietly. Gradually. And the right shortcut can reverse all of it. More lift, more light, more you. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 60, so you get real results, not guesswork. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. I cover this every single week. We're going through 10 short haircuts today that frame your face, boost your confidence, and yes, somehow make you look like you actually slept well. Let's get into it. 1. The long layers that pull everything down. For years, long layers were the answer to everything. The magazines said so. Stylists said so. That well-meaning friend with the fabulous blowout said so. Softening, flattering, lifting. That was the promise. And for a while, maybe it even delivered. But after 60, something quietly shifts, and those same layers start working against you in ways that are hard to name, but impossible to unsee once you spot them. Here's the thing nobody really says out loud. Long layers on fine or thinning hair don't frame the face. They drag it. The weight pulls downward, the ends thin out toward the jaw and neck, and instead of the elegant flow you were promised, what you get is a slow, soft collapse. Your face gets framed from below rather than lifted from the sides. The eye travels down instead of up. And if your hair has lost density, which honestly most of ours has to some degree, those long wispy ends can look like they simply gave up before reaching the destination. And here's the part that really stings. Long layers can actually exaggerate the things we're trying to soften. A jawline that's shifting. Cheeks that want more lift. Hair that isn't as full as it was at 40. The very style you've been loyal to for a decade may be quietly undermining what you're trying to accomplish every morning in front of that mirror. I kept mine for far too long. Part of it was habit, part of it was hope, and honestly, part of it was the deeply inconvenient fact that change is uncomfortable even when it's clearly the better option. It took a side-angle photo, brutal, unplanned, taken at a family gathering, to make me see what I'd been refusing to see. My hair wasn't framing my face. It was escaping from it. The fix is simpler than it sounds. You don't have to shave your head. You don't have to make a dramatic declaration. You just go shorter, with a cleaner edge. Think chin length. Cheekbone length if you're feeling bold. A cut with a defined hem, one that ends deliberately rather than fading out, immediately gives the whole silhouette structure. The eye travels up instead of down. The face looks lifted rather than weighted. Add a few face framing pieces around the front, and what you get is a woman who looks like she walked in on purpose. It's a smaller shift than you think, and the difference in the mirror is not small at all. Going from wispy long layers to a clean-edged shorter cut isn't giving something up. It's trading a style that's working against you for one that's working for you, finally. That clean hem, those face-framing pieces, suddenly she's not hiding behind her hair. She's arrived. The difference is immediate, and it took less than an inch of courage. The one swap to carry away from this part. Wispy long layers to a clean-edged chin-length cut with face-framing pieces, and the whole silhouette lifts. Coming up next, a haircut most of us dismissed for years, and were completely wrong about. 2. The bob you swore you'd never get. Let's be honest about the bob's reputation problem. For a long time, it carried a very specific set of associations. Sensible shoes labeled lunchboxes, practical over everything energy. Not in a chic French girl way. More in a I have a color-coded calendar and I am not interested in compliments way. If you mentally filed the bob under not for me, years ago, you were not alone. Most of us did the same thing. Here is what we got wrong. The right bob. Cut at the chin, slightly curved at the jaw, finished with just a little movement at the ends, isn't practical. It's precise. And precision after 60, is one of the most flattering things you can put on your face. Here's why. As our jawlines soften and our cheekbones decide to play a little harder to find, a well-structured bob frames the face in a way that does all the architectural work for you. It defines where your face ends and the air begins. That definition is lift. That definition is what makes you look sharper, more awake, more intentional, before you've added a single product. It took a particularly bad humidity incident to finally get me to try it. My hair expanded, then deflated, then just sort of sat there looking betrayed. I walked into the salon and said, simply, make it make sense. My stylist suggested a blunt bob with a little light layering at the ends for movement. Not stiff, not sharp, just structured. I sat down expecting to feel sensible, and leave feeling defeated. What I actually got was a lift I hadn't anticipated. My face looked sharper. My neck looked longer. The whole picture suddenly had shape where it hadn't before. And styling time? 5 minutes. 10 if I'm doing it with a theatrical flair. The bob is also extraordinarily adaptable. Angle it. Texture it. Tuck one side behind your ear on the days you're feeling a bit enigmatic. It works with silver hair, with thinning hair, with waves that can't decide what they want to be. A slightly angled bob, shorter at the back, longer at the front, adds a lift at the crown that a straight-across hem doesn't quite give. Ask your stylist to take the back up just a touch more than the front, and see what happens to the whole shape of your head. What makes the bob especially powerful for our age group is what it doesn't do. It doesn't drag. It doesn't thin toward the ends the way longer cuts do. It doesn't give your hair permission to collapse into something shapeless by midday. It holds. The hem is clean, the structure is there. And every time you catch your reflection sideways, the line is still working. The fix to walk away with here. If you've been holding on to longer layers that aren't giving you lift, a bob at the chin or cheekbone will immediately restore the structure you're missing. Blunt cut at the hem. A little light layering if the hair needs movement. That's it. No round brush marathon required. The one swap. Wispy mid-length layers that blur the face's edges to a chin-length bob with a defined hem that puts the structure back where it belongs. Up next, a cut that once got unfairly typecast and is long overdue for an honest conversation. 3. The soft pixie that doesn't scream edgy. Before anything else, a clarification. We are not talking about a buzz cut. We are not talking about shaved sides, undercuts, or anything that requires a consultation with a punk rock revival band. We are talking about the soft pixie. And the soft pixie, once you actually understand what it is one of the most quietly transformative haircuts available to women over 60. The reputation problem here is real. For a long time, pixie cuts came in 2 flavors. The severe architectural kind that required genuinely excellent bone structure, and the I have given up on hair kind that required nothing except scissors and resignation. Neither was particularly appealing. What we didn't talk about enough was the third version. The soft pixie, which is longer on top, gently textured, and shaped to work with your actual head rather than against it. Here's what the soft pixie actually does. The longer top means you have something to work with, a little tousle, a little direction, a little height at the crown that pulls the whole face upward. The shorter sides hug the head cleanly without creating bulk or width. And that combination, lift at the top, clean at the sides, creates a silhouette that makes your features look more defined, your eyes more prominent, your earrings suddenly worth wearing again. Which you will start doing. Almost immediately. It's also extraordinarily forgiving for fine or thinning hair, which is one of the best kept non-secrets in any stylist kit. When hair is fine and cut short with soft texture on top, the individual strands look deliberate. They look like part of a considered style, not evidence of a problem. The structure of the cut does what the hair density can't do on its own. Volume appears where there wasn't any. What I didn't expect about this cut was how low maintenance the growing out phase is. Most cuts, when you're past the ideal length by a few weeks, make that obvious. The soft pixie doesn't. It just gets slightly longer on top, which reads as intentional even when it isn't. You have more time before the next appointment, and you still look like you made a decision about your hair rather than forgot about it. If you're not ready to commit fully, ask for a hybrid version. Longer at the sides, gentle taper at the back, real movement and texture at the crown. No clippers. No severe lines. Just a clean, softly structured cut that lifts everything above the shoulders and makes the face the focal point rather than an afterthought surrounded by hair. The swap from this part. Dense or flat hair that clings to the head and softens your features into the background, to a soft pixie with crown lift and gentle texture that pulls the eye upward and makes every feature sharper, brighter, more present. Next up, the addition to any shortcut that quietly buys you a better morning. 4. The side-swept bangs that buy you sleep. There was a period of my life where I was setting an alarm 15 minutes earlier than I needed to, just to deal with the front section of my hair. Not the whole thing. Just the front. Because whatever happened overnight to those bangs, the creasing, the flattening, the inexplicable cowlick that appeared only on days that mattered, could not be rushed. It required attention, heat, and a specific silence that meant I was in negotiation with my own reflection. Then I found side-swept bangs. And those 15 minutes came back to me, and I have never let them go. We're not talking about the heavy, blunt bangs that require a straightener, a prayer, and good humidity odds. We're talking about the soft, wispy side-swept version, the kind that moves across the forehead gently, knows where to stop, and doesn't make a fuss about any of it. The kind that, even on a morning when the rest of your hair is doing something you didn't authorize, still pulls the front of your face together. Here's what side-swept bangs actually do when they're cut right. They soften the forehead. They create gentle diagonal movement across the face, which draws the eye on a path that's more flattering than a flat horizontal line. They add shape to the frame of your face without adding bulk or weight. And when they're placed correctly, not too short, not too full, just a soft sweeping layer that falls across one side, they quietly distract from the things you don't want emphasized and gently highlight the things you do. There's also a practical bonus that doesn't get enough credit. Any shortcut, a bob, a pixie, a cropped shag, gets an immediate visual boost from soft side-swept bangs. They add movement at the face without the risk of layers that end up in your mouth every time there's a breeze. They give the cut dimension at the most visible part of the whole look. Right there, framing your eyes and forehead, where anyone who's talking to you is already looking. Maintenance is genuinely minimal. A small trim every few weeks to keep the length from pushing into your eyes. A single pass of a soft round brush in the morning. And even on the days when you skip that entirely, side-swept bangs still land somewhere reasonable, because they're cut to sweep, and they follow that direction without being forced. The swap here is specific: flat, square bangs or no bangs at all, to soft wispy side-swept bangs that add diagonal movement across the forehead, soften the whole face frame, and require almost nothing from you in the morning. Coming up next, a part of your haircut you've probably never thought about that's doing a lot more than you realize. 5. The tapered nape that does more than you think. Nobody warned me about the back of my head. I was so focused on the front, the face framing, the bangs, the crown volume, that I completely neglected the part one couldn't see without 2 mirrors and a specific kind of patience. Then I was standing in line at the pharmacy, and above the checkout counter there was one of those wide-angle security mirrors. Brutal. Unsparing. The kind that shows you angles you haven't seen since your last passport photo. What I saw at the back of my head was not what I had been imagining. It was a soft, shapeless puff. Not dramatic, not disastrous, but definitely not doing anything useful. Just existing back there. Adding width where I didn't need it, and removing definition from a silhouette I thought I had under control. The tapered nape is the fix. And it sounds technical, which makes people assume it's dramatic. It isn't. A tapered nape simply means the hair at the back of your neck, the very bottom of the cut, is taken in gradually so that it sits close and clean rather than fluffing outward. The edges are neat. The neckline has shape. And the effect of that single, subtle change travels upward through the entire silhouette. Here's what actually happens when the nape is properly tapered. The neck looks slimmer. The head looks more elegantly shaped from behind. And because the back is cleaner and more structured, everything above it, your jawline, your cheekbones, the way your posture reads from the back, all of it sharpens. It's the kind of change that's hard to describe until you've experienced it, and then you can't unsee it on anyone. There are also deeply practical benefits that don't get mentioned enough. No bunching under your collar when you're wearing a jacket or coat. No awkward hair bump where the neckline meets the fabric. Fewer overheated moments in warm weather. And the hair that used to flatten and compress into something strange every time you lean back in a chair? Gone. Because there's less of it, and what's left is shaped to stay where it belongs. You don't need a close crop to get the benefit. If you're working with a bob, a soft pixie, or even a slightly longer cut, ask your stylist to take the nape in just enough to give it a clean edge. A gentle taper, not a shave. Just enough to define the bottom of the cut and lift everything above it. One adjustment, significant results. The specific swap. A soft, undefined nape with no taper or clean edge to a neatly tapered nape that slims the neck and structures the entire back of the cut. Coming up next, the layer you've never heard of that's hiding inside the best-looking bobs of our generation. T6, the hidden layer cut that fakes volume brilliantly. Every salon seems to have a rumor circulating at all times. One of the most persistent is this one. Your hair can still look full. You just need the right layers. I used to find that mildly irritating, because I had layers. A whole set of them. And they sat there, quiet and uninspiring, doing approximately nothing. They didn't lift. They didn't add body. They looked like they were waiting for something to happen rather than making something happen. What I didn't know, until a stylist held my hair like a puzzle she was about to solve, was that the kind of layers I had weren't the problem. The placement of them was. The hidden layer cut works like this. Instead of adding layers on top of the hair, where they're visible, where they tend to separate and thin the ends, where they often create the wispy, collapsed look we're trying to avoid, the stylist cuts shorter layers underneath the top section of hair. They're tucked under, invisible from above. From the outside, the hair looks smooth, polished, one continuous clean surface. But underneath that surface, there's structure. There's lift. There's what I like to think of as the scaffolding that holds the whole thing up without announcing itself. That one change, invisible underneath layers instead of visible surface layers, altered everything about how my hair behaved. My crown had real volume again, not the temporary kind you fake for 20 minutes with product before it collapses on the commute. The hair moved when I moved without flying in 6 separate directions. And I stopped spending the first 15 minutes of my morning upside down with a dryer, hoping centrifugal force would do what my hair refused to do on its own. His cut works especially well for fine or thinning hair precisely, because it doesn't try to fake fullness by adding surface texture that draws attention to every individual strand. Instead, it builds the structure from beneath, so the fullness reads as natural rather than styled. The hair looks like it just grew that way, which is, as we all quietly know, the entire goal. It pairs beautifully with bobs, pixies, and cropped shags. Ask your stylist specifically for hidden underneath layers. Not surface layers, not regular layers, but shorter cuts placed under the top section to build internal structure. A good stylist will understand immediately. A less experienced one may need you to describe it. Shorter pieces cut underneath the top layer, invisible from above, to create lift at the crown without surface texture. The swap for this part. Flat visible layered hair with surface texture that shows but doesn't lift, to a hidden layer cut with a smooth polished surface and real internal volume that holds all day. Up next, a cut that solves a problem nobody warned you your glasses were creating. 7. The ear length cut that finally works with your glasses. Here is something nobody told me when I started wearing glasses full-time. My haircut and my frames were now in a relationship. Whether I liked it or not, they were going to interact every single day, in every single photograph, in every single mirror. And if I hadn't thought about how they fit together, that interaction was going to be awkward. There's a very specific kind of uncomfortable that comes from having hair that doesn't account for your glasses. The arms of the frames press oddly into the hair. The sides bend around the earpieces in a way that looks like the glasses are trying to escape. You end up tucking and adjusting all morning, and the second you stop paying attention it all reverts. Meanwhile your frames, the frames you chose carefully, the ones you actually like, have disappeared into the whole situation. They're not a feature of the look. They're just something you're wearing on your face, and hoping no one will notice is slightly crooked. The ear length cut solves this cleanly. The hair is cut just to the earlobe, short enough that it clears the arms of your glasses entirely, long enough that the face still has framing and the cut has shape. There's no crowding at the ears. No bending around the frames. The glasses sit exactly where they're meant to sit. and the hair sits exactly where it's meant to sit, and they stop competing with each other, and start complementing each other instead. The cut itself has a clean, sculpted line that frames the face without overwhelming it. From the front, you get structure. From the side, you get a neat, deliberate shape that says this was considered, not just convenient. When you keep the sides slightly angled, a little shorter at the back than the front, the whole look angles upward toward the eyes, which is where the attention should be landing anyway. Your eyes. Your expression. Your glasses, finally visible and intentional. There's a practical ease to this length that also shouldn't be underestimated. No stray pieces tickling your cheeks when you're trying to read. No single rogue strand that keeps appearing in your sightline at the worst possible moment. No flyaways photobombing the reading selfie you were trying to take of your book cover. The sides are neat, the length is controlled, and whatever else your day requires, reading, driving, a video call, a family lunch where someone is inevitably going to take a surprise photo, you're covered. Silver frames, bold colors, those progressive lenses you eventually accepted as inevitable. The ear-length cut works with all of them, because it clears the space for the glasses to do their job while giving the face exactly enough framing to look polished and put together at every angle. The swap. Crowded mid-length hair that presses into your glasses frames and fights them for attention, to an ear-length cut with a clean sculpted line that lets the glasses sit right and makes the face the focal point. Coming up next, a cut that makes you look more rested even when you aren't, which at this stage of life is practically a superpower. 8. The subtle shag that fakes energy. You know the phenomenon. Someone looks at you, a friend, a neighbor, a person in your book club who notices everything, and says you look refreshed. And you're standing there thinking, that's a generous interpretation, because I feel like I've been left out in mild weather for several days. And yet, something about the picture you're presenting says otherwise. Some haircuts can do that. They borrow energy from light and texture, and lay it across your face without requiring you to actually have gotten enough sleep or eaten 3 vegetables in a row. The subtle shag is one of them. Before you conjure the wrong image, this isn't the wild, choppy, eyeliner and attitude shag of the 1970s. That version had its moment, and it was specifically not for everyone. The modern subtle shag is a completely different thing. Light layering through the crown. Gentle movement through the sides. Just enough soft texture throughout that the hair looks like it has opinions. Like it moved of its own accord and arrived somewhere purposeful without being told where to go. It's the cut that makes fine, flat, or moody hair look intentional. And the reason it works so specifically after 60 has to do with light and how the face reads in it. When layers are placed correctly, through the crown and grazing the temples, following the cheekbone line, they create small pockets of shadow and highlight across the face's widest, most visible points. The cheeks look lifted. The temples look brighter. The whole face reads as more animated, more present, more awake. My own discovery of this cut came at the end of a particularly rough week. My stylist took one look at my hair, then one look at me, and said, quietly but firmly, "You need a lift." And she meant it literally. A few careful cuts later, specific ones placed with intention, not just randomly scattered, and I looked like I had plans, like I'd eaten actual meals, and had some kind of morning routine that didn't involve standing motionless in front of the coffee maker for 4 minutes. None of this was true, but the cut made it seem plausible. The key with the subtle shag, and the thing that makes it different from a bad shag, is restraint. You're not chopping aggressively. You're not aiming for choppy ends or a dramatically thinned out hemline. You're asking for light, strategic layers at the crown and through the upper sides, with soft ends that move rather than split or fray. Ask for texture, not volume specifically, because texture is what catches light, and light is what creates the lifted, awake look you're after. The swap, flat fine hair with no movement or texture through the crown and temples, to a subtle shag with light strategic layering that lifts the cheekbone line, and makes the whole face red as brighter and more present. Next up, the cut for the woman who wants both ease and options and refuses to choose between them. 9. The collarbone crop that's not quite short, not quite long. Some decisions feel like a compromise and turn out to be exactly right. That's the collarbone crop. There's a specific hesitation that comes with going short for the first time after years of longer hair. You know the routine. You tell the stylist you want to change, and then you hear yourself quietly adding, and please not too much, and I want to still be able to pull it back and maybe just a few inches for now. You want the ease, but you don't want the commitment. You want the lift, but you don't want the shock. The collarbone crop sits at the sweet spot. It schemes just past the jaw, ending before the length gets heavy enough to drag the face downward. It's short enough to stay off your neck and out of your lip gloss. Ask me personally sometime about the specific indignity of lip gloss and long hair in a moderate breeze, but long enough that on the days you want to clip it back or tuck it behind your ears, you still have something to work with. It doesn't box you in. It gives you options. What surprised me when I first tried this length was that it didn't feel like a compromise at all. It felt like a decision. My face had framing rather than smothering. There was a gentle bounce I'd honestly forgotten my hair could still produce. Getting ready went from a project to a routine. And because the length hits just below the jaw, it avoids the zone where longer hair starts pulling features downward. You stay on the right side of that line without having to go dramatically shorter to get there. The collarbone crop pairs especially well with two things we've already talked about: subtle face framing layers that curve forward around the cheekbones, and those soft side-swept bangs from part 4. Together they create a full picture: framing at the sides, soft movement at the forehead, and a clean length that stays flattering morning through evening without requiring ongoing intervention. It's also a genuinely kind choice for the growth phase. If you're hovering between cuts, trying to figure out what you want, the collarbone crop is the thing you try before you decide. It grows out graciously, it starts well, and it holds its shape without demanding professional attention every 4 weeks. You can take your time with the decision. The cut isn't going anywhere. The swap: hair that falls past the collarbone and drags the face downward, to a collarbone crop that ends at the jaw, bounces gently, and gives the face real framing without the weight. Last one coming up, and it's the cut stylists most often recommend when you walk in and say just do what you think. 10. The textured crop that stylists recommend when you say do what you think. There's a specific moment that comes in a woman's relationship with her hair when she walks into the salon, sits down, looks at the stylist in the mirror, and says, just do what you think. Not as surrender, as trust. She is done managing, deciding, second-guessing. She is ready for someone who knows what they're doing to look at her actual face and her actual hair, and make an actual decision. That was me 6 months ago. A half-grown-out bob I'd been pretending was intentional. A schedule too full to spend mental energy on hair decisions. I sat down, sighed, and said exactly that. The stylist paused, looked at my face, looked at my hair, and said, let's go with the textured crop. I braced for something severe. What I got instead was the opposite of that. The textured crop is short, yes, but short in the way that's considered rather than reduced. The edges are soft rather than hard. There's a slight choppiness through the crown and top that reads as modern rather than edgy. And the overall effect on the face is, there's no other way to say this, significant. My jawline looked lifted. My face looked open, unobstructed, and somehow more present than it had in a long time. People kept asking if I'd done something, gotten more sleep, changed my skincare, tried something new. None of those things. Just the cut. The right cut, finally in the right hands. Here's why stylists return to this cut again and again for women over 60. It flatters the widest range of face shapes of any short cut. Round, square, oval, heart-shaped, anything in between. It grows out gracefully, meaning the weeks between appointments don't punish you. And it handles fine, thinning, or difficult hair better than almost any other cut at this length, because the texture built into the top creates the appearance of density and movement without needing the hair itself to provide those things. The silver-specific bonus is worth naming. The textured crop is genuinely spectacular on silver hair. The slight irregularity of the choppiness catches the light differently across the crown and through the sides, which means those natural highlights, the ones you didn't choose but now own entirely, get their full moment. The texture lifts them. The cut displays them. You stop hiding your silver and start wearing it like the asset it actually is. This is not the dramatic haircut. It's not the fearless statement cut. It's the quietly excellent decision. The one that looks like you've always known exactly what you wanted, even if the actual story was one tired sigh and a trust fall into someone else's expertise. The swap. An undefined, in-between cut that's neither long enough to style nor short enough to have shape, to a textured crop with soft crown movement, clean sides, and a lifted, open face that holds its shape through every angle and every week. And that's all 10. Every single one of them, in its own way, works with your face instead of against it. That's not a small thing. Here's what we now know. Long layers that drag the face down have a better alternative. A blunt bob, a soft pixie, a hidden layer cut, a tapered nape. These are not sacrifices. They're upgrades. A collarbone crop that frames without smothering. An ear-length cut that finally works with your glasses. A textured crop that earns compliments you didn't prepare for. 10 cuts that quietly do the work you've been trying to accomplish with styling tools and product and hope. You get to change your look without apologizing for it. You get to feel lighter, literally and in every other sense, and you get to look in the mirror and say, yes, that's the one. So tell me in the comments, which of these 10 are you secretly already thinking about? And if you've already made the switch to a shortcut, what happened when you did? Someone here needs to hear it. Next week we're getting into the specific color placement choices that keep shortcuts looking fresh between appointments. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.